Welcome to the latest episode of Templar Talks. I am Stephen, and I'm once again joined by my co-host Todd Doe.
Howdy.
And once again, Ed still hasn't left the room.
They won't let me leave.
Yeah, we've got a lot of the guys from Team Templar here, so Ed obviously still hasn't left. We've got Michael again returning, and we have the ideation master of today's episode, the one and only Mr. James Gurney.
Hello.
So of course I can't forget. We also have producer James behind the mic, behind the camera on the mic now. He you're actually going to get his crispy voice.
I still don't know what I'm doing here, but hello.
So yeah, and before we start off, I know it's very off topic, but I do feel we all need to give a bit of a tip of the fedora to producer James for finishing top 500 at the London Marathon.
Thank you.
He did some crazy numbers there. So although we keep his face secret, now he's like a top 500 runner. I'm pretty sure you can fucking.
Can we do a leg reveal?
Leg reveal. I mean, to be honest, with that information, you could probably find his address. I reckon somewhere. So today's challenge for the episode: if you email templarmtg@gmail.com James's full address, we'll send you a can of water. So yeah,
why not take it?
Just a warning: if anyone does turn up at my address, just know that I'm fast enough to chase you down.
But what if they don't want to leave? Like, how do you get them out?
I will chase them down.
Sure. But James, anyway, James Gurney, of course, you are the ideation master today. What are we going to be talking about?
I thought we could discuss mod decks for the next RCQ season.
Nice.
And which deck to choose for the season, given your budget, time constraints, and your skill level and confidence with the decks.
Sure. So this is like, I guess we can have a discussion from like, if you're an entrenched modern player looking to play another deck, what pitfalls you could have. If you're just getting into modern, say you've played some standard RCQs and you want to make the move over, or equally maybe if you've played modern F&M and you want to go to start playing like comp tournaments and what to expect. So I guess separate from actually discussing the decks, because I know you've got some good numbers. First thing to discuss, if you're coming from like F&M, what are the differences going to like a comp rel tournament that you guys think are going to be the biggest like culture shocks for a player, going from that like friendly F&M vibe to sitting across from the sharks out there?
I would say longer rounds, definitely.
How long are RC rounds? Are they 50 or 55?
Well, yeah, they're 50. F&M should be 50.
RC is 53.
Good. Longer rounds, but also more rounds, I guess, endurance. And F&M is 4 rounds, and RCQ, if you win it, would be what?
5 rounds?
5 plus a top 8, so theoretical 8.
I would have personally thought the rules difference in terms of what you can and can't say, how you have to communicate.
There's the whole policy change, like rules enforcement level upgrades, right?
Yeah, but it's also how that impacts how people communicate with you, right? Like F&M's a really relaxed, casual place. Your opponent's your friend, you're having a conversation. Some rounds you just don't like have. It's just, this is what I'm doing, that's what you're doing, and you don't actually know.
You've got to stare into their soul.
Well, you might do that, and we should warn players who are going to.
So the F&M numbers are dwindling.
I will never. I think we've referenced it a few times on the podcast, but I will never forget that F&M where a player literally went home mid-round when they were playing against you after game
That
one.
wasn't because of me.
And they never came back. No, I don't think it was specifically you. I think it was like also they had no idea what they were walking into.
And they were playing a standard deck.
No, they were playing Lord of the Rings like themed.
Block constructed.
Yeah.
Were you sure to tell them what they were doing wrong?
No.
Oh, good.
But that is a huge factor though. Like people are, you're not going to be able to take something back.
Except land drops.
Can you take land?
If there were game action has happened, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You have to ask the judge.
I didn't
obviously,
know that.
But
no,
well, in theory, you probably should ask a judge, but
yeah, I'd argue you should have the judge there.
But they'll rule that you can take it back if no other game action has happened.
Damn, I actually didn't know that.
I just wouldn't even question it. If my opponent was like, I played the wrong land, I'd be like, okay, well, I know where this is going to go, so sure.
There was a situation, different game, but a Pro Quest yesterday, where there was a guy that was so insistent on calling a judge over. Like, I was playing someone, they were really friendly, I was playing against them. I heard Todd having a discussion with one of the most seasoned players there, like ex-Magic player, like they know each other, they're discussing the rules. My opponent notices there's like a discretion, and he just starts screaming like, "You need to get a judge over there to watch. You need to get a judge over there to watch. Judge, judge, judge." And I'm just like, it's the right attitude, but also like,
yeah. But that's a piece of advice, right? You should
get a judge over.
If there's any kind of discussion, don't take your opponent's word for it. Just call a judge and get it mediated. On the flip side, there's positives, right? After the match, people are usually willing to have a conversation with you about sideboard choices, deck choices, lines of play.
To be fair, I don't think, even though I've played RC level, I don't think I would have taken my opponent's word for it with the land drop, because I had no idea that was a thing. I would have definitely called a judge.
Yeah, but that only happens once, right? And then when the judge is like, "Yeah, you can take back land drops," it's never a conversation again.
But I guess that's one good bit of advice if you're going into that, is like, don't be afraid to call a judge. Like, but don't. Oh, this is the biggest. If you can take away anything from this episode, in my opinion, anyway, take away. Don't be a dick when you call a judge. Don't just scream judge while your opponent is mid-sentence. Just explain to your opponent, like, "Hey, I'm not sure what's going on here. I'm just going to call a judge to be safe."
Now, you call judge, and then you just blankly don't tell them any context, and you just leave them in the dark.
That has genuinely happened to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And with the judge present, I was like, my opponent didn't communicate with me why he was calling you, and the judge told him off. And I was like, you communicate with your opponent first and foremost. Communicate with your opponent. Don't just scream judge.
I guess expecting deck checks is another big thing that people may not realise.
Yeah. Even RCQ level.
Yeah, you need to make sure your decks are clean and tidy, and
have nothing else in the box.
5 minutes before the event starts, and start writing your deck list out.
Yeah, don't do that.
Did you actually prep your deck this time before the RC?
Define prep?
Well, I guess you have to submit it on Melee, right? So that's the most prepared you've ever been.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
His partner re-sleeved it for him.
No, you didn't make her do that.
Not. No, of course not.
No.
We're going on holiday, honey. Here's a job.
I do think that's another thing, though. I think sometimes people think they need to re-sleeve more than they do. Like, I know some people who will have the rule that they will re-sleeve before every tournament. That's the perfect world, but obviously we're going to be going on to talking about a budget side of things. A pack of sleeves these days is a tenner. If you've got an RCQ on a Saturday and then another one on a Sunday, you probably don't need to re-sleeve before the Sunday. And to be honest, the next weekend, you can, in my opinion, you can probably get like 3 or 4 tournaments out of a pack of sleeves.
I mean, I think I've done GPs where I've made day 2 where I've kept them sleeved for 15 rounds. In Modern as well, a format where you're heavily shuffling your deck as well. I think with Standard you can get away with sleeves like a lot longer because you don't have as many shuffle effects, right?
Yeah, sure. And obviously not sponsored, but shout out to Ultra Pro as clip sleeves. I know I still have the same ones on from whenever I got them in. Where was that? Italy? No, France.
Lille?
Yeah, it was Lille. It was Lille when you were playing the Pioneer event, and I went and did the podcast.
Definitely Eclipse sleeves.
Apex.
No, Apex sleeves.
I was going to say, let's just
clarify that.
I just assumed you said Apex.
No, but they've lasted like a good long old while.
I rate them, but they are £17 a pack. So.
I got mine for £11.
Yeah.
So, well, I got my first pack for free.
Yeah.
I'm going to try them out with the next Mega Modern.
They're really good.
They are really nice.
Good. Yeah. I think it's one of those things. A bit of a tangent, but you forget how good sleeves are out of the pack. Like most brands are pretty good, other than the shit that you use. Like, I don't know why you do it. Like, I'm going to save for £2 a pack and use stuff that just makes my hands bleed. Like,
just to torture you, Stephen.
Yeah,
they are rank and they stick together as well.
Yeah,
like, you can see them like pulling them apart, and there's gum.
That's not gum, fella.
I guess on the subject of sleeves, it does also depend how you treat them. I know to throw captain of Team Templar under the bus, I have lent him a deck that's been freshly sleeved, had it back after one F&M and needed to change the sleeves because he hams his shuffles. Like, he's aggressively pushing those cards
and
together.
he's got dirty hands.
Yeah, I've lent them decks that have come back grimy.
Oh dear. But I guess so. Other than obviously rules changes, you're going to have to communicate more. Deck checks. If a judge is obviously, firstly, make sure your deck is correct when you write your deck list out, which you'll have to do, which is another new thing. Spelling mistakes don't matter. You just have to make sure it's legible, and card names. There was that infamous. I know it's not a deck list violation, but there was at a PT, someone named a card, but they didn't name the full card right, and there was a card.
Borborygmos with Pithy Needle, I think.
Yeah.
So you also have to be careful of it will rarely come up, but you can't just say Jace, for example.
But you
when
can
naming
describe
a
the
specific
card.
Yeah, you can't.
You can say the
describe enough
Jace that does
characteristics
this.
of the card.
But we were talking
Yeah.
about deck lists. You can't describe every card in your deck.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
No, that's true. So deck lists, I once wrote dampening sphere instead of damping sphere.
Yeah.
And there is a dampening sphere.
Oh, is there? Okay.
So it was something like that, and the judge gave me a warning and was like, "Yeah, because you haven't written it. There
Fair.
is another, so you have to." Yeah,
I once forgot to write my entire land base for a deck list. That was pretty good.
I think my
Did you take
only
the game loss, or did you just play basics for the rest of the tournament?
I can't remember now. I don't think it.
You would
I
definitely get a game loss anyway if you get deck checked, right? Surely, because you have to write basics on the fucking.
I thought if you miss it off your deck
misregister
sheet,
basics.
you get swapped to basics. Yeah.
So if you register like a 50 card
Oh.
deck, you have to add 10 basics.
Sure. Sorry, I thought you meant you wouldn't even get the GRV for not having the basics on there. I think I got a game loss for 4 card short. I just thought it was an automatic game loss rather than a GRV. That's what happened to me at an Axiom tournament. Because I played Merfolk in Modern, and then the next day played Merfolk in Legacy, and just didn't include any of the. So it was 8 cards short because I forgot Wasteland and Force of Will. So I was just like, those cards don't exist in my head. So
Best 8 cards in that deck.
Force of Will definitely. Wasteland probably not. Don't know.
Wasteland's
Force
not as
Negation's
big
probably better than
anymore.
Wasteland, isn't it? Look, True
Wasteland's
name
pretty
nemesis.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, obviously other than that, there's a lot of other factors to consider when going into it. So I guess the first one, how should we approach the first one? A standard player who plays comp coming in, or that F&M player going to comp?
I think we should start budget from the cheapest end of the spectrum and work our way up.
Mm-hmm.
But as a first guess, do you guys want to have a guess what the cheapest viable deck in Modern is?
What are you
Merfolk.
defining as viable?
I would say something that you
Viable.
could probably win an RCQ with and get an RC qualification.
Storm.
8-whack.
Is this this is the list that they have on like Goldfish or whatever?
Yeah.
Right? Okay,
Yeah.
so this is a
Yeah,
optimal
what-
list.
Of
Can
the
we
top
t-
23.
Where's your data from? Frank Caston,
MDG
Goldfish,
Goldfish, right?
MDG top Goldfish.
Goldfish and top 8. Yeah.
Why did
Last
you choose
30 days?
Goldfish?
Last 30 days Goldfish.
I think last 30 or last 20 days, something like that. What is
30,
that?
it'll be
one?
30 or
30 then.
21 or 7.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start off with Ed. You said
Storm.
Storm.
So you think Storm is
Burn.
the cheapest? Okay.
You
Oh,
think
sorry.
bad?
I thought we were just going round.
Yeah. So did I. So Todd, what did?
Me?
So Storm. Ed thinks Storm.
Yeah.
Mikey thinks Ban. What about you? You think 8 whack? Did you say
No.
That's not on the list.
What's our slider for viable?
That's
top
Well,
23 played
Top 23.
of the meta?
But
cheapest.
When we say viable, we mean I think you could. If you said to me, "Oh, James, I've taken this deck to an RCQ and I've won,"
I don't think there's
and got a
23 viable
qualification,
decks.
I think.
No.
I think it's just.
So what's the
it's
standard? Like 4050 in F&M?
No, just the top 23 decks on MTG
Heliod
Goldfish.
combo.
I haven't got that on the
That's
list.
not even on the list.
What?
Surely.
Really? Not top 23 decks?
No.
Maybe like 5 years ago.
Yeah, keep
Nice.
up, Grandad.
No, what am I thinking then? The Eldrazi one? Because that
Brood
plays-
scale combo. is what
Brood
you're
scale
thinking of.
combo.
Plays Urza
Okay, interesting.
Sagas.
Yeah, that's expensive.
And, yeah.
Labyrinth.
Seiji.
I would probably say Burn as well, but I'm gonna say, is it Prowess?
No, it is just Burn.
Oh,
Keeping it cheap and cheerful.
well, what's the second? Because Burn's just boring.
Burn is
right?
about $350, and then there are
Bargain.
quite a few decks that are
Why
around
are we
the
using
$400.
dollars?
Because it's Goldfish.
All right.
Yeah.
There's quite a few decks sat around kind of the $400 to $450 range.
Okay, so I mean, Burn was my first modern deck. Like, I think that's a pretty standard, good way to come into modern, right? If It depends. If you're an entrenched standard player, it's probably not the best choice. But if you haven't played much standard, it's a decent choice, I think, to get into the game, to understand the mechanics, because it's quite simplistic. Like, you're going face 90% of the time.
It's simplistic to learn. It's quite cheap, and the expensive cards in it are in the mana base. So there is quite a lot of, if you're building a modern collection, the fetch lands, I always recommend pick up play sets of all 10 fetch lands and shock lands, but that's where most of the money is you run between 10 12 fetch lands in that deck.
I definitely think, though, there's
your money isn't down the drain. It's not on unique cards.
There is a correlation, and this might be a bit of a hot take, but if you can afford to spend $350, for argument's sake, on a fully optimized burn list, is there that much difference between spending that and a full fat top end modern deck in the grand scheme of if you have that kind of disposable income to spend on a hobby?
I think the point with burn in particular is that you don't have to spend the 300 up front.
I think that's another important factor. That is an important factor.
Fetches and shocks, play mono red, buy a couple of fetches
once a month on a paycheck. Yeah.
So maybe that's a more interesting angle. What of the top 23 decks are possible to upgrade? Right, like what could you come in at like 80% power and slowly?
Well, yeah, that was going to be my point. I wouldn't recommend anyone spending the money on burn. It's pointless.
I agree.
Yeah, I'd agree with that as well.
Don't waste your time. Don't play Magic for 3 months. Save your money and buy a proper deck.
Yeah,
but then I do think there's the potential that like you can buy a deck and not like it.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I agree, but that's what any online platform to like test your
cockatrice.
Yeah, or even proxying and playing paper with your friends.
Asking a friend to borrow a deck.
Yeah, I would admit.
How many people are going to proxy a deck though that haven't played Comp Modern before? Unless you've played Comp Standard, then you might.
But I think £350 is a lot of money, or dollars, whatever. That's a lot of money.
You don't actually do that, right? To buy burn, you buy things like Goblin Guides, Swiss Spears, and all that, and it comes to like £60.
Yeah, that's more the angle that I'm interested in, because I used to do the whole budget at F&M thing. If you're going into an RCQ, what decks are viable at that sub £100 that could be made into decks?
You can definitely 8-whack your way to the top.
Yeah, but that can't go into anything else.
Very limited, right?
But it costs you £80.
Yeah, sure.
It is a very interesting question. There aren't many decks in Modern where you can buy a cheaper but worse version of it and then slowly upgrade it over time.
Prowess, Merfolk,
the one, right?
Burn.
Yeah, but something say like Amulet Titan, for example, you have to have the full.
Surely you could play Amulet Titan with no. I know you wouldn't have the options, but you could play it without like endurances and force of figures.
Well, you're not even playing endurance, so there's that.
Sure.
But I mean, the big uptick in Amulet is Sagas and Besages.
You could play it without Besage, right?
That's trash.
Well, you could play it without both in theory, but the problem is Amulets are £20 a piece themselves, so you're locked in at probably
over
a minimum
floor
price.
I'd say 120 to 150 to get a cheap version of the deck, right? So
I think we should caveat that an RCQ, like your local RCQ, you can probably get away with quite a lot. But go into an open deck list RC, you're going to have to
you're going to get found out.
Yeah.
So should we move slightly up?
Could you do Tron?
Probably not.
Yeah, but could you buy the cheap version of Tron and have it just doesn't play anything anymore, does it?
No, I think there are versions of Tron now, because, for example, you could play Khan Liberated, which I think is actually like £5 now, because it has been literally replaced, and like there are plenty of, I guess you could call it an outdated but budget version of Tron, and it would still be reasonably enough to take down an F&M.
I think you can do powerful things in Magic for a budget. It's the longevity and the duality of cards that are expensive, right? When you have like a card like back in the day, Colligan's Command, right? Cards that replace cards that are already in decks, because they are modular, they have multiple uses. Like you can 8-whack is a simple, I'm going wide and I'm going to kill you. Tron, make big mana. It doesn't matter what you spend the big mana on. It might just get somebody. Ponza, oh, maybe I win by killing your land on turn 3. At an RCQ, you can do that because you've got 5 rounds. All you have to do is win 3 of them, maybe 4 if you're lucky, and you can make top 8, and then you might have easy matchups where destroying a land on turn 2 is good enough. But if you're going to an 8-round tournament, your deck's not consistent. Like that one powerful thing you're trying to do, whether it's go wide really early, you might just get blown out in three of your 8 rounds, and that's it. You can't make day 2 or whatever.
I do think that's. I've always had that argument for a long time, though, that people try to like, it's the whole thing with people that don't like the MH sets. I think people try and chase the 0.1% margins and probably don't need to. Like, at the end of the day, if you say you're a modern player from, I don't know, 2018, and you have maybe not, I don't know modern then, but 2020 when I started playing, just before like MH1 was too involved in the set, in the format, like, could you bring a Jund deck to an RCQ and top 8? I'd argue that yeah, probably.
I mean, I did December last year, or not last year, the year before, when Langdon, I made the semis with Jund.
I mean, there was a bloke who won the Mega Modern, the Axiom Now Mega Modern, playing Enchantress, right?
Yeah.
Which at the time was a £300 deck. But sometimes putting a solitary confinement into play is enough to ruin people's day. Oh, I'm going to play a Blood Moon on turn 2, then I'm going to play a solitary confinement, and you can't attack or play any cards, and that's just good enough, right?
A deck like that as well, people just aren't ready for it. Like, you can have the top meta decks all you like, but if you rock up with cards that people just can't interact with.
The other one's Ad Nauseam, right? Like, that is still a deck that you can play in Modern, right? You can
Neoforms had a big uptick last couple of months.
And they're not necessarily expensive decks, right? What makes decks expensive is popularity and most recent printings, right? So the reason that I maybe like, you want to be looking at a set earlier. If you don't need if there's a deck that doesn't need cards from MH3, for example, it's probably not going to be as expensive.
I would say that Is It Prowess was probably playable pre Steel Cutter, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
And no, but it is like, I think this is the thing. It's just good. Like, it's not.
It's playable.
Oh,
right?
it can't win an RC, sure, but I'm pretty sure you could easily win RCQs.
Yeah,
with all of the CD tier decks.
I would disagree, but there we go.
When I was playing on a budget, like James tried to get me back into Magic. He did, but I didn't go all in. I bought Prowess to a Mega Modern in Milton Keynes, and I went 8-0 with mono red Prowess, and that was like £150 deck. But playing Manamorphose and what's the sack a mountain lava dart with like what was it?
Kiln Fiend was there?
It wasn't quite kill. No, it wasn't quite. It was more like go wide, so it's like Swifties and Soul Scar Mage, just 1/1/1/1 play and then try and have a big turn. But I did 18 damage in one turn, right?
So moving on, Burn's obviously the cheapest. What do we guys think the $400 to $500 decks in the format?
I think it's.
Do you want to go down with a guess, or do you want me to just go through them?
Well, I think it's kind of. I think my argument is, if you like, and this isn't financial advice, and this isn't me judging, and this isn't me doing any of that. If you are spending $350 on a hobby, you should be able to probably spend $450 on a hobby. And if you can't, then you probably shouldn't be
in the hobby.
Going in at that level in the hobby. Like, and I know that's a really harsh take, but I think it goes back to people say Magic is too expensive. You know, when I was younger, maybe I wanted to drive rally cars in my spare time as a hobby. That is an unobtainable hobby because I'm never going to spend thousands of pounds to have a kit car like ready to take to the track. I think it's subjective as to what you want to spend your money on. And I don't think the $100 jump is particularly... Like, if you're considering going to, and I know this probably does sound really harsh, if you're considering going to a tournament with a $75 entry with $75 cost to get there, plus $150 to stay and eat and yada, 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 you know,
you can afford to have
I think
a decent deck.
The deck budget becomes a little bit less into it because it's already Magic is an insanely expensive fucking hobby. And like it's more like what is more expensive of a hobby than Magic? I don't think there's many sports that are other than stuff like golf. Like everything else would be cheaper. I think we're already in the hole of like spending a shit ton of income on something that isn't needed in life. You know, this isn't a discussion of like, to take it slightly political, this isn't like we should charge for water and stuff like that. This is not a necessity for everyday life. This is a hobby. And I think $100.
It's a premium hobby, right?
Yeah.
When I first started playing, I remember it was just a hobby. Like most people could do it. Now I just see more and more people get priced out of it. Like there are more important things. So
and arguably there's TCGs that are way more accessible. Like Pokemon is a TCG where you can buy the top any meta deck for under $100 pretty much. Like it's a lot more accessible.
I would also say at this point that if we're in the $450, $500 range, that the difference between a $500 deck and a $1,000 deck isn't ability to win matches. It's personal preference on playstyle.
Yeah,
right? I think there's plenty of very competitive $500 decks. And that's purely about card accessibility. When were the cards printed, about how expensive it is, whereas like the 1,500 decks are probably just more recent, more popular archetypes, not necessarily better in and 14 round tournament.
I've said it before. Like when I first started Modern, I loved the look of Jund, and I instantly accepted I was never buying that deck. Like it was just like, oh, how much? No. You know what I mean? Like instantly struck out. And I think that is another thing that you have to be like a little adult about in terms of like setting your budget before going in. Don't go down the rabbit hole of like, oh, just another 20 and another 20 and another 20. Like, you know, it is also gambling as well, like with the whole pack.
Well, Jund typically wasn't great against Burn, right? So it was the top deck that's worth like £1,500 that regularly got stomped by a £300 Goblin Guide, you know.
So onto the next decks then, $400 to $500. We've got Mill. Big shout out to our local player Dan, who loves
Goth
Mill.
Girl Danny.
Cute goth girly Danny, yep. How do you guys feel about Mill? Do we think that's good, bad?
What, as a deck choice? I think they're like, if you like that play style, that is a deck you could pick up and never drop, right? That's a deck you can play for, and there's plenty of deep runs in events where people have got like, you know, won Modern challenges. I mean, I remember distinctly first paper Mega Modern. This guy in, I think again it was Birmingham. It was his first paper Modern tournament. He played only Mill, and he only played Mill online, and he won it. He won the Mega Modern on Mill, and his first paper tournament. And just because, you know, MTGO teaches you some tight lines.
I don't think it's as normalised in Magic. I think there are some one-trick players, but a lot of common players, like Michael, like, you know, like Dom Harvey, like, to name some of the bigger ones in terms of typically plays Titan or whatever. Like, there are a few with select decks, but it's not as prevalent, I don't think, as in other TCGs where, like, someone will only play one deck. I feel Magic players do like to change around more. Maybe that's just my take on it, but common players...
Depends on the format, I think.
I also think that's partly our level of play, right? Is that we play at a relatively... I play more Mega Moderns and RCQs than I do FNMs, right, in a year. So we're always surrounded by people who are wanting to succeed on the big stage, so that you're more likely to have access to multiple different card archetypes from friends, etc. And you're probably more likely to want to play something different into a certain meta game, whereas, you know, there's an incentive to play the best deck or play a deck that beats the best deck, right? Like you tried to make Merfolk work. Merfolk's great at the moment. So why aren't you playing it? I might do. I'm probably going to play Energy for the season, to be honest. There you go.
We're good. I think Mill is a good solid deck in terms of reusability. I think a lot of the money in the deck is in its mana base, and then the obvious next logical upgrade from Mill is onto Dimir Frog.
I would argue that there's a lot.
You'll have polluted deltas, you'll have watery graves.
I would argue the money's not in the mana base for Mill. Like,
Why?
I don't know what the money.
I get. Okay, yeah,
the money cards
these, but beyond that,
they've reprinted Archive Trap now. I was thinking some of the Mill cards are like the fucking crabs are more than like the fetch lands. I think, aren't they now?
Well, they're like uncommons.
I know, but they're like they're 7-8 quid or something, aren't they?
So fetch lands are more than that, right?
Some of
you can get flooded strands for like 7-8 quid.
Yeah, fetch lands are like a 10.
Fetch lands are so cheap.
They are cheap.
Yeah, they're cheap, but they're still more than crabs. Is my point.
Maybe. I don't know.
To caveat, because this conversation is getting quite interesting, because we're talking about like buying into cards. James has the entirety of Modern. I would not suggest that anyone just buys all 10 fetches. You can just buy a deck.
Pick the shard you like, right?
You can just buy a deck. Ignore James.
And
you don't have to buy the entire format.
But even more important though, so like if you see a list online like you like, and you need like a white fetch, and it's playing. Okay, I can't think of an expensive white fetch because they're all cheap. But my point is, okay, so like polluted deltas in Frog, maybe Misty Rainforests are going to save you 15-20 quid for the playset. Yeah, just buy the cheaper versions.
But when you're playing with fetches like that, so like I often play with budget fetch mana bases. That like if you've got in your hand, like if your deck is blue black, right? Like if you're playing Frog and you have like a polluted delta, a marsh flats, and a misty rainforest, fetch your shocklands with your off color fetches and save your polluted delta when you want to fetch a basic, either your swamp or your island. And there's such minor margins in that.
I mean, in that specific deck, you only play one swamp, right? Yeah. So playing all blue fetches is pretty inconsequential. 95% of games to get the stuff you want, unless you're super in deep and want the percentage margins of like,
optimal mana bases.
I think also that does make you a better player as well.
Like, definitely thinking about your land drops.
Yeah, especially when you start, the more colours you start adding, you do need to be aware of like, they're not all just red fetches. Like you need to actually think about it. So I think it's good to get in.
And that matters more to you, doesn't it, Michael? Because that's literally the only decision point you have to make into, isn't it? Because your cards play themselves.
Whoa.
2 mana.
Which 1-drop do I play?
Ragavan.
No, you don't play a 1-drop.
He barely plays any 1-drops now, right?
Sorry. Which 2-drop? Is it a Carver or a Scion?
Ooh. Yeah.
I mean, that's a fucking pretty obvious choice there. If you
when I play against Michael, there is a solid like 3.5 minutes of pain watching him just think about his land drop, and then he finally makes it, cracks it, and then there's another 5 minutes thinking about what he's going to put in play.
Deck to different fetch lands,
and then he just slams the 2-drop like that. Bang! There's no decision there. That's what I was playing all this time.
He plays a lot quicker when he has the ley line in play. I can tell you that.
I mean, if we're going to decks granularly, like talking about each one, is this a good point to bring in producer James and introduce our wall of choices, because we can kind of put them up as we talk about them.
Yeah.
I think this might be better than keep talking about money, to be honest.
I think that. Yeah, but I agree completely, because I do think that's the depressing factor of like all of these TCGs. If money's a factor, and again, I don't want to sound like a prick, but you probably shouldn't be spending your money on TCGs, right? Like, if it shouldn't be your number one priority, if it is, reassess what your priority is.
There's also like the lifestyle element, right, of this discussion is I don't play F&M anymore, right? I just really find it so immensely difficult to get down there on a Friday and not be disappointed when I get there. And it's so inconsistent about what the experience is going to be like, that's money I'm saving, right? If I don't go to F&M every week, I'm not spending 20 odd quid parking, paying entry, and then that's money that I can put towards maybe a better, more competitive deck, or a deck that I want to play more.
Those players coming from standard and stuff, that's always the argument I've had in terms of like, if you draft every week, like you are dropping 5 on parking, 25, 30 quid on entry, 5, like you're spending like probably close to 50 quid a week. Like
it does add up over
to draft, and that's a lot of money.
Well, you would know owning the entirety of one.
I only own that because I get free parking.
But yeah, like there's definitely lifestyle factors and stuff as well. And I do agree actually with F&M being inconsistent, because I think F&M, was it last week? There was like 16 players. So like,
Yeah,
it was
gas.
good turnout.
Yeah.
The time I went before, there was like 7 people or something, and it was just like, I was like, why the fuck have I turned up? This is awful. So yeah,
Because you all
it's
think that though, right? So then they stop turning up.
Absolutely.
for me, it's just, and I know I've had this conversation before, but it's just not pleasant being in that building with that many people shouting, and it's just like, I was thinking about it, like, you know, shout out to one of the local players, Edvinus. He hadn't been at F&M in a long, like, I think he's come back for the last couple of weeks. And I got paired into him, and I hadn't seen him in ages, and I was like, oh, I'll have a conversation, and we were just like shouting our turn actions at each other, just like, yeah, and it's like it's a bit difficult.
It's also slightly off topic, but I think it's hard to go to F&M when the rewards are not got, like, they're just not what they used to be. Like, it used to lead onto your store championships, onto your RCQs, and there was value added by going, whereas now you get a pack of something that you don't even want because standard cards aren't really relevant in the modern format. So you used to go and it was like, even if I lose, I might open a Dark Confidant or something that was relevant to the format that you play. A Colligan's Command, for example, when it was Dragons of Tarkir. You just don't get that anymore. So
I do think, to be fair, give credit where it's due, I think Athena introducing the leaderboard is a cool idea.
Oh, definitely.
Like, in terms of like, you have a leaderboard
Yeah.
that you're climbing. I just wish it was WotC pushing that to like actually get you to some kind of a tournament.
I also,
you know,
I know why the way their leaderboard is that you go to multiple formats. But again, I just don't have the appetite to play, 3 days a week. So I'd rather there was a modern leaderboard. Like, if there was just a modern leaderboard, I'd probably come to every F&M because there's like a little bit of juicy stakes there, right? And I want to be on the top of the leaderboard. But I know that even if I turn up to every modern F&M, I'm still going to be bottom of the rankings, because you have to be going to multiple
formats.
days of the week, right? So
maybe we should do some kind of like third party kind of like,
third party
this is
leaderboard,
unofficial,
yeah.
But back on topic, our
wow.
producer James over there.
Taking control.
Burn. Obviously, we've got the 4 categories on the wall: playable, unplayable, based, and cringe.
Sorry, for any someone that's not 17, what does based mean?
Just based.
Pretty based, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty
All right,
based.
good stuff.
Are we talking?
Glad we
I
did
think
that
that's
up.
mid-range for the older people here.
The first deck we're putting on the cool wall is Burn, which is the Goblin Guide.
No. The first deck we're not putting on the wall is not Burn.
It's whatever
because
Jamie has
producer
in his
James
hand.
does not play fucking Magic,
That's why I
and
said-
he's just got a pile of
Honestly,
23.
I've got no idea
why I
what
said
you've
it's the
said the
Goblin
whole
Guide.
episode. So
So rather than sifting through 23 cards to find a Goblin Guide,
whatever
what is on the
picked
top, James? What are we going with?
So, once again, to reiterate, I have no idea about Magic whatsoever, so I'm going to try and pronounce the names of these, and I'm going to
this
get
will be
a
good.
lot
I'm
of
excited
them
for
wrong.
this.
Okay,
I've got too much of a life to actually care. So,
Okay.
let's go. The first one I've got here is Slick Shot Show Off.
Oh,
Okay,
wow.
so
So
Prowess.
is it Prowess? This is a deck that's around the $400 mark. I
mean-
think this deck is hot at the moment.
To preface this as well, we're doing a rule of majority. So as soon as 3 of us have said we are happy with a category, it will be going in that category on the wall. And maybe we'll, adjust this as time goes on. We may change what we're putting on this wall, but we'll go from there. So how much was it?
Can I just preference it probably should be a Corey Steel Cutter, just to define the actual
Thank you.
deck. Thank you.
So much for owning all of Modern.
Yeah. What
I
happened?
don't own the new hotness, sadly.
You haven't got
What are red cards?
To be fair, for a baller that owns all of Modern, it is painful because James refuses to buy play sets on release. He tries to trade for them one by one, ends up with like 2, and then paying 3 times as much for the card afterwards.
I disagree.
Spike.
I think James finds the greenest people at pre-release, and he's like, "Yeah, that's worthless. Yeah. You should try this card."
No, I just have lots of commander cards that these people at pre-releases.
I couldn't believe that, to be fair, when I went to a pre-release and got an Agatha Soul Cauldron. I've been trying to find one for ages, and it was literally just a commander player that was just like, I'm never going to use this. Have you got any borderless like
I'll hoover up
fetches or
60
whatever?
odd £2 to £3 cards, and I'm like, knock yourself out.
So anyway, is it prowess?
I'm going based.
You're going based. I don't think it's based.
I'm going based as well, purely because I think
I just want to say playable. Can I just say playable?
I think purely because it's got a lot of reusability and shares a lot of cards with both standard and Pioneer.
I think if
But
you're
that's why I think
entrenched standard
it's-
player, it's the easiest deck to transition to at the minute.
I think it's the best deck to buy. It's
Yeah.
incredibly playable. It's incredibly cheap, and you can very easily start lower end and build it up.
I
It's
think
the
you can-
perfect modern deck.
Whilst the modern deck is only 400 itself, I think you could spend probably around 500 or 600 and have standard, Pioneer, and modern, and have a viable deck in all three.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I will say it's
Can
based.
we
then.
put a crown on you?
Is it a Burger King crown?
I'll agree. I'll agree with that being with it being based, because it would be a good choice in all the formats.
It's the
So yeah,
perfect
that's a
choice,
pretty
yeah,
based
And
buy.
I think you can tweak.
I hate
Sideboard.
this so much.
I'm going based. Ed's going based. Steve, what
Someone
do you-
pull up
you
Urban
think-
Dictionary, please.
Yeah, okay. So James, can we get the definition of based before
Do
we
we have,
proceed?
do we have any
We
space?
certainly
I don't even
can.
know if that's good, but
Based is good.
Yeah.
Based is good.
because
It's
there's
pretty
four,
based.
right? So playable and cringe are obviously opposites. So I assume unplayable and based are opposites, or is based
No,
and cringe
I'd
opposite?
say cringe is like you can win a tournament
No,
with it.
based
It's
and cringe
playable,
are
but you're going to
opposites.
hate yourself doing it.
No, I think cringe is easier to see. Like, you see someone on the deck and it just looks a bit cringy. Like, one of those.
Every time I
players.
see Ed play Amulet, I'm like, what is that cringe?
I think that's going to be the hot thing, because I think Amulet is cringe. I think that's a cringe pick. I think it
Before we
either
get decisive.
it either has to be based or cringe. Like, but we'll get to it.
we can
It
put them in
dances
the
the
middle.
fine
Look,
line.
we can put cards in the middle. But
This matrix is so confusing because playable and there's two. We need two versions of each card here because
put them
it's
in the middle.
playable, but it's also
So
based.
cringe.
We've now decided that
No. Based is we can put them in the middle. Like, if we think it's
So is this a
between
Venn
range.
diagram?
It's a spec-
with
Yeah, it's a
circles?
spec. They
A
can go
circle
anywhere
with
on
Venn
that.
diagram.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what's the definition of based, James?
Well, what it says here, that I think the simple way of putting it just says the opposite of cringe.
Does it actually?
I mean, it does give a long explanation here, but
Unacceptable.
I think that one line, just the opposite of cringe.
okay.
Sweet.
So like,
It's perfect.
So like when you see someone and they're doing something that's giving you the ick. This is the opposite. You look at them, they're doing something like pretty based.
And that's based.
You can't define a term by using the term.
I'd say it's correct. I mean, we could say that, Gurney is definitely not based on that. yeah. You're-
I'll admit that.
Yeah.
Right, so
So
based.
I think this is solidly in based, because based
Yeah,
also
yeah,
implies it's playable.
Yeah.
This is like properly in based.
Like, legitimately, if you're looking to get into modern, this is the deck to buy, right? Like, by significant
Which
margin.
is a base decision.
For example, if you've just gone to the most recent standard RC and you've got that bug to keep hitting back and get qualifying for more RCs,
In it from the
I would.
Get them back shots in.
And you're now coming into modern season, you don't know what to play. Is it prowess?
Next card, please.
Hit it from the back.
Start steamrolling some of these.
So the next card we have got is Goblin Guide.
Okay,
Oh,
so
that
that's
is burn.
Cringe.
That's base.
I think that's just unplayable.
I think it's unplayable.
I think it's cringe.
I don't think it's cringe.
So we
I
put
think
that.
it's
We,
cringe. Like, if you're playing red, you might as well be playing prowess.
Yeah.
so unplayable,
Cringe.
cringe,
Unplayable.
unplayable.
Michael's a decider.
Mine's based. I think it's cracked.
Okay,
Cringe.
and you're cringe.
You can play it in zoo.
So
Right, you
play
have
it
to
in
choose
burn.
between unplayable and
No,
cringe.
No, not the card. It's
No.
the archetype burn.
the
Yeah,
unplayable.
yeah,
okay,
So
sure.
yeah, like
two
the
for
deck
unplayable,
transitions so
two
well.
for cringe. So we put it in the middle of the cringe and unplayable, right?
No, put it in unplayable. If you're going to put it in one, put it unplayable. It's not cringe.
Okay, yeah, I agree. I don't think it's cringe at all.
Deck is
pretty
gas.
cringe.
No, I don't.
You can play Bump in the Night, Boris Charm,
Oh, you
Attack
just
Command.
stop.
Okay, it's
I'm
starting
wincing.
to lean towards cringe.
Oh god,
Okay, what we got next?
Haters.
Next up, Hedron Crab.
Okay, so this
that
is
is
Mel.
Mill. I think that
Playable.
is pretty cringe.
It is a
You
bit
sit there and your
cringe.
opponent goes turn one land, head on crab, and you're like, oh.
It is
Yeah.
a bit cringe.
It's
It's pretty
playable.
cringe.
It's playable, but it is
I was
cringe.
going to be generous and say unplayable, but we'll go cringe.
Can we just put it in the center of the entire thing?
Yeah, I agree.
Because it's playable,
What,
but
the
also
center? Yeah. I think
Playable,
this is a.
unplayable, cringe and based. all
This
at
is
the same
definitely.
time.
Yeah.
It is all of those
Yeah,
things.
chuck
I
it in
agree.
the middle.
It is, yeah, sure.
It's the perfect explanation of a deck to never buy, but also you should probably buy it if you really like it.
It's
That
when you
doesn't
wake
make any
up.
sense.
Do you even own Mill?
I do.
Oh, base.
God. What's next?
Next up, Kappa Cannoneer.
Okay, so
This
what's
would
it?
be an affinity.
Cringe.
Blue white affinity. So that's-
Really?
I'd say playable.
I think it's...
That's a deck that's the second most expensive deck, sitting around the $1,400 mark.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
cringe.
yeah. Cringe.
Yeah.
Because
Cringe.
it's got Urza Sagas, it's got Mox Opals.
Yeah, cringe. If you're putting that much fucking money into a deck,
And I can also add that there are much better Saga decks. There are much better Opal decks.
I also want to shout out that if I think Robert Wiseman turns up to an RCQ, he'll be playing this deck.
Nah, he'll be on Vulture, right?
Yeah.
He plays a cringe.
Yeah,
vanity
cringe.
base.
Cringe.
Easy cringe. Okay, what we got next? We're rattling through these now. We all agree. Damn.
So next up, Goryo Vengeance.
Goryo's
Based.
Vengeance. This is around the $900
I
mark.
think it's unplayable.
Based.
$900. I think a lot of the money is in the mana base. Is it still four kind of mana base?
Any deck
Traxxas as well.
that can put an
Goryos.
Atraxa or Gristlebrand in play is based. Even if it's unplayable, it's based.
I'll be honest here. It's one of the decks that whenever I see someone play against me, I'm like, that is based. But whenever I try and play it myself, it's cringe.
But that's everything to do with how you play the game.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
all for playing that
when I
deck.
see you playing most decks, I think it's cringe.
So
Like when you try and play
I want
any
to put
of
that
this,
in
it's
based.
surgery.
I mean, I like the deck, but I think it's unplayable.
But that means based then, right?
Oh, okay, yeah, base then, sure, yeah, yeah, sure.
I think so. I think
Well,
that's
yeah,
like-
because you tip the fedora, you know, like when someone's playing it, you're like, okay, sure.
And it can get you. Like
No, I think based
plenty of
decks
top
are
eight.
certainly playable.
I think you could play a bad deck and it be based,
yeah, for sure.
like the Thinking Man's deck. You know what I mean?
Are we
Like-
happy
James
to put
is
this-
really
base.
confused.
Are we going based?
based? Yeah, that's pretty based.
What we actually should have had these is like all shifted slightly like 45 degrees. So you've got up and down for playability and then left to right for cringe and base.
Sure.
I feel,
like
and
his
I'm
reason.
gonna give this behind the scenes view to the listeners. James had this idea at 11 p.m. last night.
Not producer James.
Not producer James Gurney, and we have cobbled together this fucking mess. So that's why this is sketchy as fuck. Hopefully, if we use this as a bit, we'll be doing it a little bit more streamlined.
Maybe
But yeah,
update in
next
3
one.
months or 6 months' time after the season's over.
Yeah, easy.
So next one, Guide of Souls.
Oh, this is Boris.
Playable.
This is
Playable.
thoroughly
Based,
playable. This is about
playable.
$1,000.
Yeah, playable, easy. I mean, it's the best deck in the format, right?
You have no soul, but you want to win.
Yeah.
You have a Guide of Souls.
Moving on.
Territorial Kavu.
Oh, let's go base.
So this
Playable.
this is
Playable.
I think this is the other main entry deck into modern because I
Fuck
think
off.
this at the
It
moment
has no transition into anything
at the
else
moment it
transitions
sits
to
around
other than the mana.
at the moment
Yeah.
I think it sits around $700, but I think you can build it without the expensive cards in Flage and Ragavan for around $400, and you have a mixed mana base
Okay, sure.
spread out
Very
to other
If
decks.
if 370 of those dollars are on the mana base, I'll agree.
you can
The rest of the deck
Playable,
is pretty worthless.
and
right?
then you know if you don't run it without Flage and Ragavan,
I thought Sans were quite
it will
expensive,
be
aren't
worse, but you can get away with
No, they're like
what other
less
one
than
drops
that,
that I know
yeah.
Michael has experimented with. Another late game, you don't need Flage, do you?
So just playable. Yeah,
I think solidly.
I feel bad for Michael, so I'm going to say base.
Thank you. Thank you.
Fuck
It's
off, Todd.
definitely not based.
Well, this is a 3-2.
If I can
majority.
get Goryo's Vengeance
Have we
into
gone
base, I
playable
think
here?
we can put Zoo
No,
into base.
because
No,
Goryo's
Vengeance is way more
It is
interesting.
just bad.
yeah,
Alright.
yeah.
Well,
Basically,
your deck's boring, bro.
There's nothing based is also kind of spicy.
Full of
There's nothing.
shit.
There's nothing.
there's nothing spicy about
Zoo.
looking down at your opening 7 and going, "Oh, I've got a ley line of silent."
To be fair, there's nothing
like,
spicy about that
Yeah.
anymore.
No,
And
it's
there's
playable.
no-
Goryo's
It's very
Vengeance
playable.
is still like spicy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but 4 Leyline of Punishment. You can play 4 Leyline of
Oh,
the
shut the
Void.
fuck
Oh, get in the sea.
You can play
It's
Invert
getting
Polarity.
towards cringe. At
Yeah,
this
we're
point.
getting cringe
that's,
now in a minute.
Over to producer James.
So next one, Emrakul, The Promised End.
So this is
this
red
is
green
Eldrazi.
Eldrazi. I think this is solidly in the playable.
It's just playable,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it's just playable. Boring, but
No
playable.
pizzazz.
Yeah.
Soulless, but good.
What we got
Oh
next?
no, this is going to get dangerous now.
Primeval Titan.
do we need to put this one to the back of the pile for later?
Can I start my strong defence?
Actually, no. I'm gonna pitch. I think it should be exactly halfway between based and cringe.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
I rate that.
It is in the mill area.
My strong argument, trying to be as unbiased as possible, is I believe it is the standalone most unique deck in Magic the Gathering, and it makes the most out of its most unique feature in terms of its resource system.
Yeah, but it's pretty cringe.
To be fair, I've been won over. That's definitely in cringe. 100%. That's cringe.
Cringe.
That whole sentence made me wince.
So you're cringe?
Yeah.
I think that's the thing.
We've got cringe.
I even feel cringe when I used to play it because I feel I'm wasting my opponent's time.
Yeah.
I think that it is the cringe.
Once you
there.
get to the point where you have to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do, but you don't actually do it.
For
No,
viewer
we're done.
reference, it's
We're
about
done.
$850 to $950, and there's little to
That's
no
more
lap
than I thought
over.
it was going to be.
There's little to no crossover with other decks apart from maybe Besager and Urza Saga.
Except all of the utility cards.
Yeah. And they are most.
What you mean?
cost, right?
Things like Crumbling Vestige and...
Yeah, but they're like
Hilarious.
50p.
Yeah, yeah.
50p.
But Summoners Pact is dead.
All of the
Prime Time
money is
dead.
in Force of
Vigors are dead.
Vigors,
Yeah, but Prime Time isn't
Besagers,
expensive.
Ottawaras.
I don't think. I'm
I
pretty
think
sure
there's a lot
Prime
of
Evil's
money
like
in
a
other
fiver,
a
isn't it?
piece.
Yeah.
Like amulets themselves, Titans add up.
Amulets have gone up now. They used to, when I bought into the deck, they were like a fiver. Yeah. But
No,
Well, that's
£20
because the
each.
deck's playable, but it fluctuates into playable and unplayable.
what we got now?
Next up, Goblin Charbelcher.
So this is around the $450 to $500 mark.
Hot.
And there is little to no lap over apart from, I guess, what the
Nice.
expensive cards in this deck. Force of Negation.
Hot take. I think this is based.
I think it's very cringe.
I think it's playable.
I think it's exactly next to Mill, wherever we.
I
put
think
Mill.
this is the kind of deck you play if you don't really like Magic the Gathering.
But that's why I think it's based because I think it can take down a Solomon. I think
Yeah, of
it's,
course it
it's,
can, but I
I
just
think it's
cringe,
very
right?
good. And
it's the thinking man's choice of
I know
like
this is Sean
if I want
Goddard's
to.
preference at the moment. Well, it was a few months ago, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's cringe.
No, I don't think it's unplayable.
It's playable or based.
Yeah,
and I
It's
don't think
playable
it's
or
based.
I think
I
it's
don't think
next
it's
to Mill.
based. I think when it first came out,
Where did
it
we
was
put Mill in
based.
cringe?
No,
in the middle.
The center of the universe.
Yeah.
I think when it was new, it was based, but now it's just solidly playable.
I'd be happy to propose, as obviously we have to get 3 people, that it goes slightly to the left of Mill.
Between playable,
And unplayable, but in the
I'm
middle
really
of that.
not happy. This is my most cringe deck.
What, Charbot? Yeah, but it's only because it beats time.
No, it's nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that. It's like I just don't think it's a Magic the Gathering deck. I just don't like
You think
it.
it's just a pile
not
of
even
draft cards that are chucked together that shouldn't
Yeah, I don't
function?
think that revolves in cases much for. I just think it's
So,
very simple.
Just to recap,
Cringe.
you pitched that Primeval Titan was deeply unique and was a champion of Magic the Gathering
No,
for
'cause
its
it had a
uniqueness.
unique resource system.
Titan makes the most of Magic's resource system, whereas this deck just ignores
Yeah,
it.
I get
No,
it.
no,
You
no, I
just
don't think that
present
at
it
all.
and you're like, do I win?
I think that deck, the resource system is very hard because you've got
Yeah.
a whole bunch of lands that you can play.
No,
but
it just ignores
which ones
it.
do you keep in your
Just says
hand
it
to then
doesn't
pitch
matter.
the spells?
I don't think that's really relevant when most of them are unplayable spells. Give
Yeah.
all your opponent's creatures -1/-1.
I mean,
So
my
they're
favourite thing
pitchable.
about Magic is lands, right?
that's
And
where
this
the
deck
playability
plays
is.
none,
The grass
so
scrolls.
that's probably at the heart of it.
I think
Should we just have a vote?
I think
We
it's in
can
the
talk
middle
about
of
this forever.
playable and unplayable.
Cringe.
Above Mill.
Cringe.
Directly on top of Mill.
Can we
T
have
for cringe.
someone give us a cringe? Come on.
Between unplayable and playable.
Oh, I agree with James.
I think it's just where Mill is. Like,
I think it's
in the
directly
middle.
on top
Like,
of Mill. I think it's on top of Mill.
I'd
There.
say it's below Mill.
It's not. It's not based. It's not
It's not
based. It's not
based.
based.
No. Okay, so
But-
like, as in, like, closer towards cringe. Like, if you're gonna go anywhere,
No, up a bit.
That'll do.
That'll
that'll
do.
do. Sure, fuck it.
It's because we have the opposites aren't on opposite axis, right? Or they're on the same axis, right?
Sure.
So you can't really do it.
Yeah. Cringe.
But
should
then
be-
it- but I
cringe
would
should
argue
be to the right of
it's-
unplayable, and base should be to the left of playable, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. What we got? You look like you're struggling.
I am.
I could see it from here. It's Omnath, right?
It is.
Okay. So
Unplayable.
full color money pile. I think it's
Unplayable.
based.
Oh,
I mean,
cringe.
What version? Because are we going Orm's Chant loops, or are we going
I think the
just
current-
value?
But this is
current-
what I just think it's based because you can do either.
Yeah,
well, no, because Orm's Chant is cringe, right?
I think the current
Oh,
versions
what
are
with
like
the
Time Warp,
Isaac
Orange
on that
Charm,
picture?
Eternal Witness, Rens to pick up Suarez to bounce your own Eternal Witnesses.
It
So
all
you're
sounds
saying Orange
unplayable.
Chant?
Loopy, I'm thinking loopy kind of control.
Right. So for me,
control
then it's
into
cringe.
loop.
Unplayable.
Cringe.
Playable. I want to put.
Really?
Actually, no, it's not at the moment.
It's not playable.
It's so unplayable.
It's got to be unplayable then. Yeah.
I'd be happy between unplayable and cringe, I guess.
Yeah.
think which are solidly unplayable.
I think it's a base deck, but I think it's unplayable.
Can we put it further to
for
the
reference,
right?
that deck-
So it's as far unplayable and cringe as possible.
Well, Stephen
Wonderful.
calls the deck money pile, but it's only $700 to $800 at the moment. It's come down in price.
Yeah,
It's just the
It's
traditional
dropped in
name for it,
popularity.
No, I think it encapsulates the idea of money pile, right? Because all the thousands of pounds you spent on Ragavans and Wrens and Besages,
Doesn't make you
everything's
any
just
better.
gone down
It's
in
gone down.
value.
Yeah.
That's the perfect encapsulation of money pile.
What we got now?
Next up, Urza Tower.
So this will be Eldrazi Tron.
Not Tron?
This is a
Or
brave
regular
pick to
Tron
put
that
in.
doesn't really exist without the Eldrazi-ish package at the moment.
Okay, yeah, true.
I'm just gonna
Travara.
straight up jump the queue and say this is unplayable in the modern meta. Like it's if we're going back on our argument from before of like, could you win an RCQ with D-tier decks? Yeah, everything's playable. This is an unplayable deck. At RC
I'm
level.
surprised that this was the choice of card to represent that archetype.
well, we have-
because
No,
we-
this isn't
Well, we
this
have
isn't what
Emrakul for
Gurney
the red
plays.
green.
so this is not
This
red.
is like
Emrakul
this
red.
is shit Tron.
This is purely, Tron lands, Ugin's Labyrinth.
So that's unplayable because
This
it
is
doesn't
colourless.
exist anymore.
Yeah,
This is
this
colourless.
is just garbage
So I
Tron.
think some decks fired leagues recently with it.
Oh, a league.
You're talking like mono green Tron, right?
Yeah, either
Yeah,
colourless or mono.
unplayable.
So like you're talking like Chalices, Khans.
Unplayable.
I think it's
Thought
close
not
between
says-
playable and unplayable.
It's unplayable.
I think
Put
it's
it
a version
just
that
to the
will be.
left of unplayable.
I think
I would put it an unplayable, yeah.
at best it's unplayable, at worst it's cringe.
Interesting.
Okay, sure.
And that deck is about $650 at the moment.
That's a waste of money.
Yeah,
That's what that is.
$650.
But that
Very
does
poorly
share a lot
spent.
of similarity with red green Eldrazi, of course.
What we
Which
got?
is definitely based.
Lord of Atlantis.
Oh, Stephen, on to you.
Cringe.
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 Yep.
Cool.
That is
You're insane.
a cheap.
We don't need to drag it.
You're
through
looking
the
about
math.
$600 for Merfolk at the moment.
Waste of money.
I'd imagine at least 3/4 of that is force negations and subtleties, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Which,
Ether Vars,
ironically,
is the
neither
one
of those are
no,
Merfolk.
eighth of ours are like a fiver.
They're like, oh, I thought
Yeah,
they-
that's
Oh, unless
so
they
cheap.
went up with.
No.
I thought they were like
black,
10 to
white.
15.
No, because
Cavern.
black-white moved quite quickly off it.
Cavern's like 15 quid now.
Yes.
It's so depressing.
It's not.
No, it's not. It's like
It's like
25.
30.
Oh, it was okay. Last
It's
time
a
I
cheap
looked,
stand
last
play,
time I
right?
looked when it
Yeah.
got reprinted, it was like fucking
Of
nothing.
The producer.
Yorgamoth Thran Physician.
Cringe.
Cringe.
Fuck that
So
deck.
it's pretty cringe.
Yeah, cringe.
And that is about $900.
That's free already. Fucking get it in the sea. I hate that deck so much.
Oh, okay.
I quite like your
What was your opinion on Yorgmoth?
I think it's pretty based, but it's not very playable. Somewhere in between that.
I would be inclined to agree. I think it's good.
I think there's too many times though where it's just like I'll leech you a little bit.
I
Like, it
really
just- it
like.
wins
You
by a
nickel
thousand
and
cuts.
dime with some shitty cards, yeah.
I think there should be a place for creature control, creature tutoring decks.
Yeah.
And that at the moment,
You mean like
Yorgmoth
Nardu, yeah?
is that deck or
Yeah, no,
brood
it's
scale.
sick
Yeah.
based.
Well, no,
Yeah.
it's Samwise at the minute, right?
Is it back to Samwise now?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I struggle because I think Samwise might even be more cringe. Than
Yeah,
fucking
Samwise
Yorgmoth.
is way more cringe than.
What we got next?
Jaskai Ascendant.
Cringe.
based.
Why is that even on the
Oh,
list?
actually, in this
Because
day and
that
age,
is- that is a
based.
combo
If-
deck in the
yeah.
format
Can we
at the
establish we're not playing Ascendancy though?
No, it's one of, right?
Well,
It's
one
one or
of.
two,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
a one of or two of. But it's the
It's-
Jeskai combo.
Oh,
new
this is new.
Moxes.
Corey Steelcutter, new Narset,
New
Saga,
Opals, Emery,
Tamios.
Tamio.
Yeah,
That
but
shell.
what was the but what was the deck that just got banned?
Breach.
So it's the new breach, Sure.
I think it's
okay.
based.
For
Cringe.
reference, this is the most expensive deck in the format at the moment because of Mox Opals, Urza, Sagas, money.
This is the money pile of the new
Yeah,
format.
and just to
right?
be clear, if you were thinking about playing Kappa Cannoneer, this is the deck you should be playing.
Yeah, probably.
And also don't play that card.
I think it's based. That's where I'd end up on it.
I think it's
but-
playable. I think it's bullshit, but it's good.
Oh yeah, I think it's playable.
I think it's halfway between based and cringe, as weird as that sounds. I think
I-
it's on the edge of both.
That shell when it first came out in Breach was based, and now I think we're
Now
just
it's
a bit
cringe.
numb to it. Yeah,
yeah.
No, it went from base to cringe because we all got fed up of Breach.
Yeah, but
and we all
that's what I
wanted
mean.
it
It's
gone.
now it's edging
And now
back.
it's
but
just
it's still
solidly
edging.
in the playable. I think.
Oh,
I agree. I think it's playable,
Yeah.
but it's not. Breaking.
It's
the
not a cool
format.
deck.
No.
You know what I think?
No.
no, I don't think it's cool. at
Get
all.
swinging, man. Stop doing. whatever.
Hey, it's got Corey Steelcutter. We're swinging.
All right.
We're coming in.
Tamio attacks.
What we got now?
Ed just confirmed that he's playing it over Amulet now. Can we
Maybe.
move it to cringe, please?
Terry, time revat.
Oh,
Teferi,
time
Time
ravel.
So it's just
This
control.
is blue-white control. Normally has Narsets in it and Days Undoings and
I think it's unplayable.
Yeah.
forums charts and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I
It's
think
playable, right?
I think you just play the 4-color variant if you're
sat
going to
around
play
the
the
$600
it's just
mark.
better.
What 4-color money
I
pile?
disagree with that.
Yeah,
no,
it's
not
complete deck.
not Omnath, but I mean like splashing the extra colors. I think is beneficial than just playing blue-white.
Yeah, but you can.
Oh
I
yeah,
think those
I
are
think
the
it
same
like splashes
category, right?
like maybe for prismatic.
Or binding.
Oh, sure, okay.
I think
That's more what I meant. Blue, like with
bet-
the bindings.
I think
and
it's
stuff.
between playable and unplayable.
I think it's playable.
Yeah, I think it's between playable and unplayable.
I wouldn't recommend it, but like if
I
you're
would
in
go
control-
between, yeah. It
Actually, yeah,
could.
I'd put it above the Urza's tower.
Put it closer to playable. You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
that's
could win a game or two, but it's
He'll bore you to death.
yeah. It's why you play.
Wait, is that 5 to fairy?
No,
No,
it's
it's
three.
three.
Three to fair.
How many more we got?
About 7.
Fucking hell. Okay, let's
Come
keep it going.
Just keep it.
Why did you pick 23? That's such
You-
a bizarre number. I said 10.
Thought we just keep going at it.
Okay, let's go for it. What we got?
So next one, Samwise Gamgee.
Cringe.
I think it's cringe.
Yeah, it was painful.
Sorry,
playing
cute
against
golf
it,
girly
man.
Danny, but you did not impress me at
Golf, what? Golf girly daddy.
I don't
Yeah,
even know where
Danny.
that came from.
Danny.
There was a group chat, and he, being the old man that
Oh,
he
he
is,
couldn't-
he changed the theme by accident to goth and didn't know how to change it back.
That is very dumb.
So I renamed him Cute Goth Girl Danny.
And then he didn't know how to change his name back up. Like, well, okay, what we got?
Psychic Frog.
Cringe.
I don't think it's cringe.
just playable.
I think
yeah,
it's
it's
playable.
just about playable.
Oh.
It's more playable than three to fairy.
I think you've got to move the 3 to fairy to the right, and you've got to put it where 3 to fairy is.
I agree.
Oh,
I'd go.
I mean,
It doesn't make it. On the top.
okay. To argue to put it in playable and not do a big monologue about how it's an in-depth deck, I think in terms of win percentages, it is top 5 in the format right now. So I think it has to be playable.
Well, it should be behind Zoo because I know it's got a lower win rate than Zoo.
It's higher than Zoo.
It's lower than Zoo.
In
Zoo
the
has
chart,
the second highest win rate.
in the chart you sent the other
Zoo
day,
has the second highest win rate.
it must have changed. Zoo was
In the
below
chart I sent,
Belcher,
Zoo,
Frog.
it was
Just
Belcher
put it
then
in
Zoo.
playable, Jamie.
Okay, sure, but whatever. It's
Zoo
it's playable.
is busted and
Yeah.
it's based
I think Zoo's
both
playable.
at the same time.
Ketramos? Yeah.
Well,
Unplayable.
the deck doesn't actually play Ketramos anymore, which I think made the deck even worse. So I'm going to
No,
play
there are some versions that still play Ketramos in that shell, and there are other versions that play Recruit of the Guard, right?
I
And
think
Ether
it
Vial.
Why the
had
fuck are you
its.
playing it if it's not got? I
You
would
play
have thought.
Recruit of the Guard and Ether
It's just
Vial,
copium.
Overlord still.
It's literally just copium.
Oh, unplayable.
It had its
Unplayable.
15 minutes of fame, and now it's unplayable.
I don't know. I still think if Energy is going to be big, if Frog is going to be big, and Zoo is going to be big, Ketramos eats those decks.
I don't think it does.
No,
I think it eats Frog,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
but
like
I don't think it eats energy or.
no.
I think once people
I just
understand that
put it in a
against
box, move
Yeah.
it to the side, and carry on beating.
Yeah,
this
but
deck.
unplayable.
Unplayable.
Four are unplayable. Fuck that deck.
once you realise that Ketramos loses your life, just fucking dumps to them, and then they'll be scared to draw cards.
Baskin Broadscale.
Based.
I
There's
think it's
nothing
somewhere
interesting
between
about that
based and
deck.
cringe.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. There's nothing interesting to me about it, but if someone shows up to a tournament with it,
I respect
kind of
that.
like Charbelcher, like in terms of, oh, you've made a call here.
It's niche, isn't
I'm
it?
just like, you've picked some fucking niche deck that you think is going to do well, fair play.
I'd just put underplayable.
I think we put it
got-
between based and cringe. It's got that gap underneath.
I didn't hear the card.
Brood scale combo.
Brood scale combo.
Oh, okay, so the last Mega Modern, Breed Scale, and Charbelcher top 8'd based.
No, the Brood Scale came 9th.
Still based.
Unplayable.
Respect.
That's
Get
your World
out.
of Warcraft friend.
Yeah, that's the Scottish lads. Yeah, they're doing the solid.
I think I'd
They
lean
want
to
a tear.
playable, just because I don't think it's very interesting. But
Between playable and based.
I'm happy with that.
I think the deck is garbage.
I think you need to put it to the right, like between playable and cringe.
We're not.
No, we're not
We're not
microchanging. We've made a
microchanging
decision.
them. Yeah,
So-
it's done.
Ruby Medallion.
This is
Cringe.
Storm $500 to
Yeah,
$600
no, thank
range.
you.
I think this is just hot cringe.
Yeah.
I hate
No,
this
thank
deck
you.
so much.
yeah,
It's
Spend
so
your money on
high
better
rolling,
things,
isn't
yeah.
it?
I respect people who play it and play it to death, but I am not playing it.
I'll give Amulet a bit of credit. If we've put Amulet in cringe, there's no way that Storm doesn't get in cringe.
Yeah.
Hollow one.
Based.
Unplayable.
I think that's between based and cringe because it's based. It's like that's cool.
It's
No, they're playing the lottery. I respect anyone who's playing the lottery.
You cast Burning Inquiry and you discard all your lands. It's
based.
cringe.
So based.
Yeah, they're playing with a handicap. Big up.
Yeah, based.
Yeah, but isn't that just... No, never mind.
Living End.
I think it's just cringe.
I think now it's based.
No.
I think I'm more
again,
based than
some of these,
cringe.
how do they make the list?
Cringe.
unplayable.
Back in the day, cringe. Sure, but I think now, if you see someone playing that and doing,
You respect that they're still on it after the ban of Violent Outburst.
Yeah.
Based. I can see that. Yeah.
What? No way. It's cringe.
It's cringe.
Ed's the decider then.
Well, I'd say it's between based and unplayable. So it's
Top writer based.
yeah.
So, or between based and cringe, then is that what you want?
Yeah, all right. I'll settle for between based and cringe.
But it's not cringe at all.
It
It's
is
so
cringe.
It is a little bit.
Do nothing, do nothing,
Yeah.
do nothing. Have I won?
Nice draft cards though.
Yeah, they all cycle.
What we got next?
That
All
is
of
all.
Okay,
Is that
so
all
do
23?
we want to readjust any of these? I guess that's.
Can we
how
readjust
can end.
Titan?
No.
Yeah, we can put it in the bin.
Where it does belong.
What's in cringe? Let's go over cringe.
So cringe is Ruby Medallion, Samwise Gamgee, Kappa Cannoneer, Primeval Titan, Lord of Atlantis, and Yorgamoth.
So what we've established here,
Maybe
viewers,
Yorg
is
needs
that
to go.
I was going to say I'd like to move Yorgmoth.
what we've
Seriously.
established here is that all of the combo decks in the format, whether they're creature combo or land combo or just casting lots of spells in one turn, we all hate combo.
That's not true because Jeskai Ascendancy is unplayable.
I think maybe we need to move Jeskai Ascendancy to cringe.
No.
Keep them
I
all
vote
in
for
Let me
line.
have something.
We all just like having creatures and attacking or killing the board. We just don't
Absolutely.
want comboing on one.
I think
turn.
it's actually interesting that we haven't put any like hard control decks in cringe.
Now you got to respect the game, right? If you're playing
Yeah,
now
I mean-
certain days,
I think if there was a good one, it'd
Go
probably be
for
in
it.
there.
What
Maybe.
are the four control decks? Blue, white, Eldrazi, Tron, and
you put that under control.
Yeah, that is
yeah,
weird.
right, Eldrazi decks is control. Living End kind of could be considered control because it just board wipes and wins the turn after.
I don't think that's control.
I
Well, what
think
else
you
is- what
need
else
to
is
write an
living in?
article on what you think control is.
Or anything that just stalls out the game until it is stronger than it's
just want
supposed
to-
Right, fuck it. Let's put our cards where our mouths are. That's what we've said.
Yeah.
That's our definitive board.
It's a crime
And
shame.
we might come back to this segment.
If you have any strong opinions, please drop them in the chat.
Yeah, tell us we're wrong. That's what this
Do
is
you
about.
think
Having a
Goryo's is a
conversation.
control deck?
No.
No,
There's a combo.
it's a combo deck.
But it doesn't win on the turn it combos off.
That doesn't mean
It
there's a
just
combo
has
there.
loads of controlling elements, and it's like I'll just draw a bunch
It
of cards.
relies
and gain
on a
bunch of life.
combination of cards to win the game.
I was gonna say Zoo plays
Sure.
Leyline Binding, Stubborn Denial, Lightning Bolt, Tribal Flames. It's not a control deck.
That's a tempo deck.
Because you can
though.
interact doesn't mean you're a control deck, right?
This is a whole nother episode.
All right,
of our
starting the
podcast.
next episode then, I guess.
Right. On that note, we will end it there. I think this is going to be our longest episode yet of the year. But we'll definitely have to come back and revisit this.
Quick recap though: if you're a new player getting into the game,
Don't.
what are the top 3 decks that you'd recommend getting into?
I would-
each person starting with Ed
Okay.
Oh,
on that list. So if you're a new player,
Prowess makes the most sense. I think then probably like Dimir Frog or Zoo would be the 3 I'd recommend.
I'd say Prowess by a long shot compared to everything else, and then or if you want to have more fun and play Zoo or Burn.
I'm leaning
Hot
towards.
take.
I think Prowess is the go-to. Good at the moment. Very good. Very affordable. The other 2,
Oh,
I think if you've got the top end money, Boros Energy, can't go wrong with it.
Can you just give us the cost of Boros Energy there?
Around $1,000.
there you go, pocket change.
And then I think the other one has got to be Zoo. I think you can come in at the cheap end and then upgrade it and still be solid to win an RCQ.
You can always start with Naya Zoo as well.
In order, for me, it would be Prowess, Boros, Zoo.
Same as me. Interesting.
We know the people zero.
If you want to do well and come in an affordable format, I think Zoo or Prowess are the two. I'm going to give more than 3 just to preface this. If you want to see what the format is like, I think that Frog or any of the other mid-range decks are the best choice. And then in terms of like long-term upgrade path, I would probably go for Energy, I guess. Just in terms of like, it's a good deck, and a lot of the more expensive stuff like Flage, like you can move into other things.
Could you play Energy without Fable, Seasoned Pyromancer, or Ranger Captain of Eos? Is there a cheaper,
probably.
3-drop kind of card you could get in there?
They don't even play
don't
Ranger
need
Captain anymore.
The fetch lands, I guess you could cheap out one, couldn't you? Like go with like Marsh Fats and Bloodstained Mires.
But
The
then-
big
then
problem is
you just
Ajani,
play Prowess,
Ocelot, Prize, and Phages.
Yeah.
they're the 3
They're
big
the
hitters, aren't
necessities
they?
that you probably need to make the deck actually work.
But to end on a very hot take and piss everyone off, I'm going to say, if you don't want to come back to this podcast in 6 months to a year, 2 years time, and us say that the top 3 decks to play are Spider-Man Tribal, Final Fantasy Tribal, and SpongeBob SquarePants, just don't play Magic. That's my... I genuinely believe at the moment, if you're coming in from no game, you'd be better off playing Pokemon.
Can we put the Spider-Man, the Final Fantasy, and the SpongeBob decks? Can we put them in cringe right now?
No, I think
No, SpongeBob goes in based, right?
Maybe
genuinely,
yeah.
this is actually, and this is too much of a talking point, but at the Flesh and Blood ProQuest yesterday, none of them they're all Magic players that have sold out. As soon as I was having a conversation with Ricky about buying the SpongeBob Secret Lair, like 3 or 4 ex-players came back and were like, I fucking saw that, fucking hilarious, based. Like, genuinely, it was that whole thing of
SpongeBob
just
one
like,
is based.
that counter spell is hilarious. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, yeah, I know, like, it's...
But I think Final Fantasy and Lord of the Rings, SpongeBob based because they're fantasy.
Lord of the Rings
but
wasn't based.
Final Fantasy and Spider-Man.
Well, we'll see where
cringe.
we go. Who knows what the will be unveiled next year?
I also think we shouldn't attack people's preferences.
Yeah.
Sure.
Just because you like Lord of the Rings and SpongeBob, I think the bigger question is why would you dilute your own IP?
Yeah. Maybe we'll talk about that next
Except
time.
for SpongeBob.
To be fair, I think we've got Will picking the topic soon, and he's very much one of the angry old boomers of the Magic generation who doesn't like Universes Beyond, to the point that I think he's actually been playing a format that one of the other old players has made called like
Pure
Alternative Timeline Modern or something, isn't
Yeah.
it? But anyway, thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for sticking it out to this point. I appreciate it's been chaotic. Thank you guys for joining again. Hopefully we'll
Great
we'll
topic,
see you.
Jimmy.
Can I
in the
leave
next
soon?
We need to shout out the sponsor.
No,
Liquid
no.
Death, don't we?
I mean, I wish we'd get a drink sponsor. It'd definitely save some pennies. And of course, thank you to producer James behind the camera for searching our Urban Dictionary definitions and sticking some pieces of cardboard on the wall today.
It has been a waste of my entire morning, but you're welcome.
And just like you've wasted your morning by listening to this episode, thank you very much, and we will see you on the next one.